Winterfell after that. Hello there.
Citadel.
Say again?
Was that?
Your voice isn't very strong.
I don't suppose any of us know where the Citadel is, do you? Embarrassing, I've just washed ashore a bit place.
It's just north of
I
here.
assume that
Do you know where Dragonstone used to reside?
This streets, it was next island east.
Yeah, the next island over where it looks
I'm sorry,
like...
I cannot understand.
I can hear it. It's the next island over where like it looks like there's a big lake in the middle of it. It's like that general area.
Thank you very much.
There's no problem.
I can walk there with you. I do need to look for horses.
Drift mark.
Can't really hear you.
Let me see if I can.
Sir, thanks. I just saw a company of wildlings right outside the city walls. When I asked the wildlings, they ran away.
What were they wearing?
Just cloth, nothing more.
Did one of them have a wolf hat on and the other
Yes.
sort of like a hunter's hat? Yeah, they're not wildlings, they're just idiots.
I see. Also, did you say if I bought 2 Megalodon teeth, I could get a mount?
Not the teeth, the fins.
I see.
The alpha megalodon fins, or 2 alpha raptor claws.
I see.
Okay then.
Has that made my voice any clearer?
Yes.
Yes, it has.
Ah, superb. Sorry if I missed anything while I was in my head there. And again, thank you for the directions. I hope that someone will be there to tell me where my assignments are.
There's no problem.
Are you a maester?
I am. I'm newly dispatched to this area. My name is Maester Corvus.
It's nice. Her Targaryen brother, Percy's Targaryen, hand of the Queen Vanix.
A pleasure to meet you all.
Like what?
Is there any
Did I
blacksmith
hear
here that
someone-
can smelt my ore? Is there, can you smelt my ore?
Our blacksmith is asleep, and anyone can smelt ore.
Oh, do you have a forge here? Yeah.
We do, but I can't let you into the storm.
Anyway,
You
I
can
sh-
have this whole.
Oh,
Shouldn't
that
have
is
to
very kind. The people of Driftmark actually gave me a horse to use until I found where I'm assigned and get all my maestering things sorted out. But thank you very much for the offer.
You're welcome.
I better rush off. I don't want to keep you all standing out in the rain. As a maester, I feel I should say it's probably not good for your health.
Alright, be
It
safe.
was a pleasure meeting. Come back
Thank
whenever
you,
you
and you.
Do we want to kill Nakaro's horse or put that up like for sale as well?
say again, man.
Do you want to kill Nakaro's horse or put that up for sale?
I mean, we could put it up for sale.
Why?
I mean, if someone, well, because Nakaro is dead. Yeah, I gotta fill you in on that.
Yeah?
You
Care to
know what he did to
explain?
Avalon, correct?
Yes.
And you know that he burned a man alive in his temple, correct?
No.
Well, he did that, and we also believe that he was going to be doing the same thing to Avalon, and he was bending her mind so she would be open to do it.
And it's better off that
Yes, so in the storeroom I attempted to detain him on these things, and then it turned into a fight, which I had my sword removed. He whipped it out of my hand. Then he came at me with his and cut me across the face because I didn't have my helmet on at the time. And the brawl went outside towards the horses. He got on his. I got on another horse that was in the area. Smashed it into the side of the horse he was on so he couldn't move anymore. And he proceeded to pull out his sword again and continue swiping at me. Luckily my armor took those blows, and I pulled out my club on the back of the horse, and I knocked him out, hopped off, took my sword back from him, and then executed him.
well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, just gonna have a scar is all. Alea said it would help get rid of my squishy Dornish perception.
It's okay. I think Avalon's gonna love you all the same.
Hopefully. She hasn't been awake yet, so I imagine she's gonna be worried to all ends when she finds out what happened.
I think you.
And then those two individuals that were here earlier, like I said, we detained them because we thought they were wild. And they just spouted lie after lie after lie while we had them in the dungeons. And we had to let them go in the end because no one could, the people from the Vale that came down, they weren't the ones that attacked them. And then days went to Winterfell, and no one in Winterfell knew who these people were either, so... But they had information that a wildling wouldn't reasonably have, so they weren't them, they were just idiots who couldn't keep a straight story. They said they were cooks, but I doubt it.
Yeah, they told us one of them was a hunter.
Yeah, see. Their names were Octavius and Jeff, what they told me.
Once I completed my chain, I was asked by the Citadel to go to Essos to do traveling. I showed a particular affinity for the lead link, which is why they sent me there, to broaden my knowledge and bring the knowledge back to the Citadel. That meant that I travelled through Essos and ended up in Ashai. I spent much of my life there before the Citadel called me back, I think about 5 storms ago, as Westeros was in desperate need of maesters, and it appeared that your mother had returned, or there was threats of your mother returning at the time, and there was unease growing in the realm. So I returned via boat, and once arrived, it appeared that Maester Alaric was Grand Maester in King's Landing at the time. And however, at the same time, it was evident that there was a collection of maesters together in the Vale, forming a citadel-like structure headed up by Maester Faustus. I got assigned to Casterly Rock under the leadership of Davis Tyrell. Have you heard any stories of Davis Tyrell at all, Your Grace?
No.
Let's just say Davis Tyrell was, well, he worked his people to the bone, and as his maester, I was no exception. I arrived in Casterly and was immediately put to work. And from afar, although I never got a chance to go myself, I did hear that in the Vale, classes were being held by different people of different professions, and people were being taught numerous skills. It sounded very, very profitable and good. But as time went on, when I was in the land, Your Grace, a particular note began circulating across all of the 7 kingdoms. This note promised blood and fire to the usurper on the throne, and to any lords and ladies who should follow him.
I remember all this.
And this was at the
This is
time
a really
when there
long
were
time
also
ago.
sightings of, I'm assuming, these dragons over public market event. This note, along with the sightings, got the realm into quite a bit of, well, upset. There was a lot of accusations as to who this note was from. The note was signed SMF, and it was very, very interesting to see the different conspiracies unraveling around me in Casterly Rock. It was believed that it was a pair of people from the Iron Islands named Sunava and Finnegan that attempting to
Surprised he can remember all this. Holy crap.
assassinate the current ruler, Valen, because he had done something to Sunava. But that is another story. This note, however, and these sightings began to destabilize the realm. And when your mother arrived, she arrived, and it was apparent that her and Faustus had developed some sort of connection while he was travelling in Essos, and she landed within the Vale. And after that, Faustus took the position of Hand of the Queen beside her. And this is not uncommon, dear. It's not uncommon, but neither is it rare. Maesters, especially Grand Maesters who sat on the small council, have also filled the position of hand every so often in times of dire need. And during that time, I believe your mother was attempting to reseat herself upon the throne, and she would need a small council. So in terms of that positionality, there is absolutely no issue. Your mother then met with King at the time, Valen Baratheon, and if the stories, which I do believe are true, Valen pulled out a sword on your mother first while she was atop Drogon,
It's a
or
crossbow.
near Drogon, and fight ensued with your mother killing Valen. This again further plunged a little bit more instability into the realm. This then keeps your mother then held an amnesty at the Vale, asking the lords and ladies of the land to come and meet with her and bend the knee and discuss what had happened at the meeting. Now, many of the lords and ladies at the time did not go because they had just seen King Valen be eaten by a dragon and were slightly concerned about going to the Vale. and as such, not many attended. At this point, Grand Maester Alaric and Maester Faustus began to exchange ravens that they were making privy to all the maesters to begin with. Faustus declaring that we should let our lords and ladies know that Daenerys wishes to sit on the throne and reclaim her birthright, and we should inform our lords and ladies, which we did. But Maester Alaric was not happy at the political position of Maester Faustus, and I'll admit I weighed in here. I advised over Raven to Faustus that I questioned whether it was appropriate that at such a heightened time of stress for the realm, for Faustus to be acting as Hand of the Queen, and questioned his loyalty to the Order in favour of Daenerys. We have wiggle room within our oaths, you see, that during times of war, we politically advise our lords and ladies. But Faustus did a little bit more than that. It was uncovered that he gave the order for an attack on the Iron Islands fleet, which sunk many of the ships there. He also played a role in the attack of Winterfell, which ended up in the Lord's death. Now, arguably, you could say that this was for the greater good, to end the war quickly and ensure peace. But the war did not end after these continued. As an unfortunate consequence, the Citadel project set up within the Vale went into lockdown, meaning there was no classes, and the knowledge flowing from that site soon dried up. Following that, Alaric and Faustus began to argue more about authority, who had the right to take whose chains. Alaric acting as Grand Maester and Faustus acting as Hand of the Queen. At this point, I was still relatively new to the land and serving under Casterly Rock. I do believe the line, "If you want my chain, come and get it," was passed from Faustus to Alaric. I would argue at this point that both of them had lost sight of their purpose within the kingdoms, and they had descended into a battle of ego. I recall at this time my duties were to serve Casterly. I was beginning to hold classes to train new novices to send to the Citadel for the coming storm, and helping shore up the medical supplies of both Casterly Rock and King's Landing. Alaric at the time, because he was so engrossed in this war, was neglecting to perform his maesterly duties for King's Landing. So I don't know what Faustus has told you, but at the time I was frustrated with both of them. Alaric neglecting his duty as a King's Landing Maester and Grand Maester. I was having to provide medical support King's Landing. And Casterly Rock. I cannot say what Faustus was doing in the Vale, as I was unable to go there. It was on lockdown. I tried once and nearly got inside and was greeted by a woman by the name of Callista, who I'd later go on to serve. But I'd never got inside. So, as the war came to an end, your mother decided that the war was too bloody, and wanted to take the crown peacefully, which is absolutely a noble act. But yes, as this ended, Faustus was then an arrest warrant for Faustus was then sent out by the rulers of the Seven Kingdoms, which were still the Baratheons, against the other rulers of the realm. Now, our Maester's oath, dear, is not to serve a family. We serve a keep. Faustus at the time was in the Vale and was to serve the Vale. He then fled the Vale and left the people there without a Maester. The land, and I was left with, I believe the only other Maester at the time who is still here is Marwell. after Faustus had left. I made no attempt to pursue Faustus or capture him because this is completely outside my order. So whether or not you think Charlie was a pretender or your mother was the rightful heir to the throne,
Sorry about that, guys.
as maesters do not serve or care about who sits upon the Iron Throne. We are here to serve the realm. And from the perspective that I have from the past, Faustus came. He whisked up the people of Westeros into panic with that note, and then left during, you could arguably say, the realm's time of deep need. This is the very antithesis of what our order is about, Your Grace. And I can say this with firm authority as I was there to pick up the pieces after such a war. I then went on to serve, as I said, Lady Callista, who was placed in Casterly Rock by your mother. Then, as time went on, in order to stabilize the realm, I helped Charlie Baratheon, who was at the time showing dangerous signs of degradation, in order to try and stabilize the realm, and help my lady, who wanted to improve her political position. I used my skills as a maester to attempt to marry them both, literally trying to fuse the wedge that was created by Alaric and Faustus. I put someone who your mother had placed in power and married them to someone who your mother was trying to overthrow. My position is always to remain neutral, Grace. I'm trying to ensure that the realm itself stays stable. So when Faustus arrived, you have to understand that this is all still in my head. I have to be able to remember these things so that I can best act to serve the realm. So when Faustus arrived, he apparently did not get my asks for assignment, which is absolutely fine. That is not my problem. However, again, when I sent him a raven, and the words that I used when I sent the raven were, I would prefer for you to go to Casterly Rock or the Timberlands. The man refused. And he, yes, I mean, I don't, and then proceeded to call me a tyrant. I mean, I could have used more forceful language, saying that I was assigning him to Casterly Rock or the Timberlands. But I, apparently, if that warranted the name calling of a tyrant, goodness knows what I would have been called if I had used the word assigned. And the reason that I wanted to assign him Casterly Rock or the Timberlands was because, as you know, Casterly Rock do not value the opinion of maesters or our order at the moment. William exacerbating this further. I am trying to reclaim balance within the keep so that we are not listening to either a maester or a red priest, but rather have both. I know the red priest in Casterly Rock. His name is Malik. Contributed to my library in the Vale during the last storm cycle. The man is probably one of the more amicable members of the Order. I met with him yesterday and he gave me a tour and ensured me that a maester order, having a maester there was something that Casterly wanted. So you understand, so Your Grace, when he said no, I went and asked why. And he said the reason that he went to the Vale was because that was where he grew up and that is where he once called home. Again, Your Grace, as part of the Maester Order, we eschew family values and political ties. Maester Faustus travelled to the Vale because he had a homely connection. That is something we cannot accept. And when he fled the Vale, he broke his oath in terms of, instead of serving the keep in which he was stationed, he fled. Granted, he had an arrest warrant on his head, but he fled and left the realm in a much worse state than which he found it. These are the reasons that I do not think Maester Faustus has the Order of Maesters in his best interests. I do believe he is somewhat self-serving and will cause further instability to the realm. But I have already sent out a raven, and I agree with you, Jurgen. I overstepped. As a singular Archmaester, I should not have gone for his chains, and I should have waited and put it to a vote of all of the Maesters. But From what I have seen, I am not willing to take the risk. I have always acted in the Order's best interest, and you can see the damage that one Maester can do. With William, I am afraid that with both of them here, the Maester Order could lose significant reputation and potentially lead to more instability within the realm. I realise I've probably just used all of the air in this room, but if you have questions, I will answer them.
So are you still going to pull a vote on if you remove his chains or not?
What will be decided? Faustus asked me for proof from the Citadel of Old Town. One for the One for the legitimacy of the citadel that is being constructed outside of King's Landing, whether or not it is a legitimate branch. He did not believe that I had the authority. 2, he also wanted to know whether or not I had the power to remove such a chain. So we do have a white raven currently in the citadel, but it is very unwilling to give up its note. It's been pecking me. I'm trying to feed it fish and get it to hand over its note, but I'm afraid I do not have the note in my hands yet. That
Have
note
you tried corn?
Well, perhaps corn would be a good idea. I've tried several things. It certainly didn't want any berries. But yes, it was found outside. It was found in Maester Zalia's tower. Because the wildling attacks of late, I believe it was injured. It was then delivered to me. So once we have the note, we will have the answer as to whether or not this citadel is a legitimate branch, which I know it is, but Faustus would like proof. And whether or not I had the permission to remove his chains, or whether or not it should be put to a vote. Do you have any other questions, Your Grace?
When Faustus talked to me,
Server save.